both of them, let's go. So now, if you
chat.
Lovely green to orange spikes.
Welcome everyone.
Just one moment while Sarah gets us screening.
Right.
No problem. We'll see you up there in a minute. Come straight upstairs to the chambers, Jeffrey, okay?
Welcome everyone. We would like to acknowledge this land that we meet on today is the traditional lands of the Gawler people, and that we respect their spiritual relationship with their country. We also acknowledge the Gawler people as the custodians of the Greater Adelaide region, and that their cultural and heritage beliefs are still as important to the living Gawler people today. Now, did you say he's on his way up?
He is.
Okay. Well, we'll just do a roll call. I'll welcome Henry to our meeting today. Welcome, Henry. Everybody's here except Mayor Karen Redman and Deb Good, who are apologies. Are there any motions for leave of absence? No, nobody wants one. No leave of absence, non-attendance, that's all been taken care of. Any declarations of interest? Would someone like to move the confirmation of the last meeting's minutes? Helen, seconder, Paul. Any discussion? If not, those in favour, please show. Carried. Right. Now we've got the supporting Gawler repatriation program, which we will wait for Uncle Jeffrey to come, and then we'll go on to that if the meeting is happy with that. We'll move on to Cultural Heritage Centre marketing, and if we have to interrupt this in the middle, if he comes in, we will continue it after he's left the meeting. Everyone has seen the recommendation that Jacinta's put in. Did you want to speak to it, Jacinta?
Thank you, Chair. At the request of the committee, or there's Uncle Jeffrey?
Oh. Welcome, Uncle Jeffrey, to the meeting. My name's Judy. I'm chair of the meeting. We've held this for you to be present. Supporting Gawler repatriation program, and I'll ask Jacinta, who's the Cultural Heritage Centre coordinator, just to give us some input, and then if you wish to speak, let me know and we'd be happy to hear you.
So through the Chair, I'll just give a brief part of the Town of Gawler's role, because this is a Gawler-led program and we've just been supporting them in any way that we can. So as the report outlines, the staff at Cultural Heritage Centre have been looking through the records to see if we could find any supporting documentation from our records to give further details about any objects that were in the Gawler Institute collection that went to the South Australian Museum. Unfortunately, there was very little detail other than what the South Australian Museum had. And we also had a meeting with Uncle Jeffrey, Anna Russo from the South Australian Museum, Henry, David and myself to talk about this program. And now perhaps Uncle Jeffrey would like to talk about it.
Well, can you? Yeah, that's right. Yeah, first of all, thank you for allowing me to come and do a talk about repat. You know, I once again thank Henry and the team, David and Julia, for hosting that conversation with the SA Museum, where with Gawler, and we've been trying for many, many years to return our old people back to country, and more recently, you know, we've had some really great achievements where we've, on the back of our international repatriation that came back, first of all, Tennis and Dunes, where we work with a couple of government agencies, private sector, and 2 local councils, Charles Sturt and hosted us, and Port Adelaide Enfield Council with the return of that. And most importantly, we did a lot of work with the community group, the people living in and around where we achieved that return to country. Secondly, we got another opportunity with the return of the UK collections, where after tennis and dunes, the community got together and they wanted to go pick their old fellows up and drive them back. So we were hosted by Oldfast Bay Council, and once again, you know, in that social impact investment, we had private sector. This time we had the government on board, DSDR, Nerida Saunders, the museum chipped in, and once again, a lot of great work with the community there. So that was very successful. And then we combined 2 burial grounds earlier this year, Return to Country, with the Northern Connector program and the SA housing in the Enfield area, where that was sitting there for 5 years, where we were just loggerheads with the state government and SA housing about how we return them. So they were successful programs, and then capping on this, inviting the museum to come be a part of it with Gawler and our partners. And prior to that, I've been having conversations alone with Robert Pitt, and more recently those conversations became more frequently, and I think Gawler was involved in that, and I got that conversation with Robert through Red Centre, Paul and Nadia, where we were going to, there was a plan there, and all of a sudden it took that opportunity around Adelaide Cemeteries Authority in Smithville offering land for the Ghana community to do a repatriation, return to country in the Smithville Cemetery. So because we've got to go to the museum, we then met with them, and Robert met with them, and then we started working out a roadmap on how we're going to approach the council areas, Gawler, Playford. We looked at the Adelaide Plains Council and Salisbury Council, and we've done a lot of repatriation, return to country programs from Greenfields, Mawson Lakes in the 1990s to more recently 5 or 6 years ago with the Kingbourne Road one. So that was our approach, and then that introduction, meet and greet, and you know, making sure that our 2 local councils, you know, work with Ghana and the government agencies and other sectors where we've been working with to come together to really capture this. So on the back of that, the Premier contributed to it 300,000, 150 for 1 year, 150 for the next. But out of that, we were able to get a designer to landscape it, and we created a focus group that was not only out of that, we brought in people from national parks, we brought in Fulham Funerals, gave the opportunity with other Aboriginal nations, Julie Cook from First Nations, Uncle Moogie, who does a lot of great work on Ghana, and he's an Orangery man, but he's got Ghana bloodlines. Alan Sumner and Annie Heather, we put her there because Annie Lynette was too busy to lead the women's side of that. So that was going along. It's actually gone along good. Origin, company by the name of Origin, I think, you know, they designed it. So that's gone to tender, and they'll design the landscape and all that. But I think we're at the nitty gritty now, where Ghana's got to come back and start working with the councils, the local communities, and those partners that we had, where we need to have those private discussions, and then work out what are our roles in this position, and to identify, you know, who are the main players inside Gawler staff, and also, you know, a good opportunity for council-elect to be a part of this journey with not only Ghana, but the Aboriginal community of South Australia. We certainly want to showcase it to not only our Aboriginal community and our wider community in South Australia, but also to Australia-wide, where Ghana is one of the leading groups where we've got a repatriation, return to country program, and we know that, you know, other Aboriginal nations can benefit of it. So that's where we sit at the present moment. At the present moment, I sit in an awkward position with museum, because as Henry and David and them at that meeting, museum have a way of, you give them a bit and they take it as they own it. Our approach from Ghana was, we welcome our partners, we welcome those that work with us on it. We all own it. You know, Old Fast Bay was a typical example of that, Tennyson Dunes, and more recently the Northern Connector, where we're in it together. Because by doing it together, from my position personally and from Ghana, I can't do return to country programs and expect to heal if I'm doing it alone. By having the wider community and all other stakeholders, be it local government, private sector, state government, and I forgot to mention too, the federal government really was a support with the international one. If we got all tiers of government, we got the private sector community, then we start to heal. We start to deal with the trauma, that anger, that angst, and you know, they're very successful programs. I have been too busy to, I've got a few film clips, but I'll get them to David and the team where council-elect and council staff can do. So we document a lot of our stuff where we get people to work with Ghana to tell the story of this. So it's a great opportunity, and you know, looking forward to working with a Gawler council-elect and also the Gawler council staff. You know, I do work, when I get up here, I try to have a hello and, you know, a quick wink, because, you know, it's a bit awkward for me to put in time up here, but we're building good teams, and this is what this is about. If we can showcase this to our Adelaidean people, our local community, our regional community in the Salisbury Northern area, Salisbury, Playford and Gawler Council, and offer that invite to other councils, you know, that's great. But most importantly, from my point of view, is I want to get this out to the local community, the people that live in houses, the schools and all that, you know. So we're planning to have it, you know, this time next year, late September, early August. So we've got plenty of time, and, you know, like I said, it's that meet and greet, and what I'd like to do is, you know, show those short films that we've documented, and, you know, in between getting to, I know Henry's busy, but getting to the heritage team here, and David is, you know, start bringing my team out here from where I've got Alan Sumner and the young men. I've got Madge weighing in, and the grandmothers to young children, part of that repatriation team, you know. So I get nervous because, you know, I don't want a body like SA Museum to take ownership of it, because how we've delivered it, and more recently we've lost Uncle Joe Mitchell, who was the senior man dealing repat, and gave me the allowance to develop repat how we got it now. So that's about it in a crunch, and yeah, really look forward to the support of Gawler Council and Gawler staff. I know I've got the support of Gawler staff already, but to have this presentation here and have the Gawler Council on, you know, it gives me an opportunity to work with you as council-elect to go out to the community members and, you know, showcase it, and also our school groups. I mean, we recently had a good community day planting trees with a couple of high schools. Wally Agus has been good in that with the new bypass road at the Gawler River. So I think, you know, that's the way to do it, is we get these schools involved also with our community people. So yeah, that's about it in crunch. So
Thank you very much. Anybody got any questions? Would you be happy to answer questions?
yeah.
Thank you. Any questions, anyone?
I've got a couple. I think they're probably to Henry rather than, but I'd like to congratulate Uncle Jeffrey on the work that you've done so far. It's pretty amazing. Henry, the Smithfield Cemetery, is that in the Gawler or the Playford Council? It's in Gawler, okay. And Uncle Jeffrey said that they got some funding from the government for this, but who actually funds the cemetery normally?
The cemetery is funded by the state government. And through the Cemeteries Authority, which is a body in its own right, which have its own funding, but it's auspiced under the state government.
So if I can make a quote, where I've developed the program up here is, if I can get impact investment from one, then there's that social impact. It doesn't, where I don't have that allowance of one organisation or one entity bearing the cost. And this is where, you know, is that allowance of then ownership. You know, like I said, I've had companies like Lendlease, Oricom, Fulton Hogan's and others there that contribute also into our program, you know, because like I said, one of the programs, and I'll pick some up, we have a t-shirt that we give as a gift, you know, of the old people. And you'll see that on the film because, like I said, from Seaford Rail, where we had two groups dealing with the Seaford Rail burial ground there, and they had, you know, a lot of disagreements within those two groups. The state government brought me in independently to work with both the Ghana and the Ramangee and that to do that. And at the end, when we did the burial ground, leading up to that and sitting with those old people, you know, that's where the t-shirt, we wore the t-shirts out. From there, we talking to our young men that we had there, and our film producer, Kim Mavriotis, was, you know, it came to us, you know, that, you know, we should imprint the skull of one of our ancestors and, you know, make a t-shirt. So on the t-shirt, we've got the skull, repatriate, return to country, or repatriate our ancestors, and then we got the Ghana shield, you know. So we give them as a gift. So that then is that cultural education and cultural awareness of our program. So as I do a lot of work in the bird sanctuary, I also sit on this international East Asian flyway. I sit on a task force with SEPA. So when I went to Canberra and I had 95% of my community, we took 42 people over there, which was a feat in itself, over to Canberra, and they were all new at it coming into this, and I had to take particular care. I told them about SEPA, the 4 words: C for communication, E for education, P for participation, A for awareness. And they were saying, Uncle, well, number one, you know, we look at those words, and the first thing you gave us was participation. So they called it PACE. So the second word they adopted was awareness. The third word, we started communicating. And then the E became a big factor because it was not only education, but it was to re-educate. So that's where we've adopted a program around, they adopted a program around calling it PACE. So it brought it back by participation. We brought it back to their level. So yeah, it's a challenge, but I think, you know, it's a great opportunity where we look at, you know, the difference in what we've been through this year, if we all work together on this, because, and especially how we take it out to our local community, because I rely heavily on volunteer groups, community groups, you know, and school groups, you know, as a part of my program, because that allows me to deal with trauma and healing.
Thank you, Uncle Jeffrey. Any discussion? Helen?
Thank you very much for helping us to get to this, and it's a great report. I'd really, it was a shock. So I'd like very much to support the idea that this council participates. Awareness, did you say? Yeah, participates, increases awareness, communicates and educates our community, because seriously, this has not been something we focused on before. And it came as a shock last meeting where when it was revealed that there were materials in there. So I think it's a great step forward, and I look forward to supporting this. and working with the Ghana people just to highlight that important part of our heritage. So thank you.
No, thank you. So I'll work with Henry and David and the staff because we'll do a lot of that awareness. I've got films, we'll probably, somehow work out some of the photos and all that, and, with the permission of council-elect and council staff, we've got a great period of, showcasing, the work we've already done in repatriation.
Yeah. Anyone else in discussion? Paul?
Yeah, thank you, Uncle, for coming. I too was actually pretty upset when I heard that what had happened, and I think as a community we have to own that. And I think that what happened to your community, we need to own that, and I think this is a good step forward in reconciliation and moving forward.
And thank you for that, because that's one thing that I forgot, because this is what I've got to teach my people too. There's the dark side where, these old people were taken, given away overseas, by some well-prominent people. But if you don't learn about that dark side of what happened, you won't understand, and you won't be better in that position of moving forward. So, we know there's a dark side, but if we welcome it together, then we accept they've been done yesterday. This is what we're doing here now. Tomorrow, it gets better for our grandchildren and their grandchildren and all that. So, yeah, it's critical that we acknowledge, that in the past, and then we start to accept it. Yep.
Indeed. Anyone else in discussion? If not, would someone like to move the proposal? Sorry.
Just briefly, we've just done a quick wording change to the motions that was in the agenda. It's on the screen in front of you. We want to recommend this through to council, obviously, and that was just missing in the agenda papers. It was a noting for the committee, but this is a wider council initiative. So by this committee recommending to council, it will come up to council as well for discussion, which I thought was important. And also acknowledging the work we're doing with Uncle Jeffrey, and thank him very much for his time for being here today, especially.
Yes, we do.
And we're doing a lot of other work with the Ghana community outside this repatriation project, which is really exciting. And as more information about that comes to light, we'll bring it back to the committee as well. But really looking forward to supporting and walking with Ghana in the repatriation.
I support that too. Thank you very, very much for your input. That was very enlightening for all of us.
No worries.
So,
Can I go?
yes, absolutely.
Appreciate it. Really
Thank you very much from all of us, Uncle Jeffrey, and safe journey home.
Thank you. And we're having a camp up at Parawira on the 19th, 20th with the park. So Gawler and a few Aboriginal, we're going to camp with the Rangers. So I'll add more details because it's Park of the Month this year.
It's booked out already, I think.
Eh?
I think it might be booked out already.
Yes, I'll get information back to David and the team. And
Excellent. Lovely.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So everyone has noted that we have just in red the change in wording of the recommendation. Someone like to move that way, please? Paul, seconded. Helen, any further discussion? If not, those in favour, please show. Excellent, carried. Just a wonderful, very exciting project and long overdue, isn't it? Okay. Now we'll go back to our centre marketing.
May I ask, just so that we can be part of the education process out to the community, it talks about for other First Nations. Are we aware of the ethnicity of that, please?
So through the chair, our records say that they were Fijian and Samoan. Now the museum is taking that as South Pacific Islands, but they were certainly in this collection here.
Oh dear, things we do to other people, I don't know. Yes, okay. Centre marketing.
Thank you, Chair. At the request of the committee, we've produced a report on the marketing that was done for Into the Light and the marketing that has been done for Fire the Cannon and is going to be done for Fire the Cannon. It's a lot of it's the same, but at this point we are also doing digital marketing via Facebook and Instagram. So the Cultural Heritage Centre has an Instagram account at the moment, as well as the Facebook account, and it's a growing account. We're targeting a younger demographic with that. We're looking at families because they use Instagram more than Facebook, the data tells us. So, and it's growing quite rapidly, that account. So that's interesting to see. It's a very visual medium. It's not a lot of words. It's more about images from the collection, images from the exhibition, and a few content lines, but not a great deal. So the other part of the marketing report was signage for the Civic Centre. So staff have investigated a number of options and we're looking for feedback from the committee about those options. Those options are not costed at this stage. So we're looking for your feedback and direction about which ones you would like us to acquire costing for.
Thank you, Jacinta. I'll open it for discussion. Helen?
Thank you, Jacinta. It was a great report and I'm very impressed to see a balance between social media and the other forms of media. I think that's really, particularly going into some of the tourism type publications, I think that's great. I was also impressed with the update to the volunteers guide scripts, and I think that's something that needs to be kept up and resourced as we go along so that we get maximum value from that resource. In terms of the options you've given us for the external signage, I just had a question. When I went to the final page, sorry, on page 11, I didn't quite understand if option 3 was, in what way was different to the option 1. So option 1 was simply, as I understood it, it talked about 4 A1 size snap posters outside on the thing.
They are different. I'll get David to...
So
Okay.
through the chair, the size of the display boards is the same, so they're A1.
Yep.
However, in option 1, the boards are actually fixed in under the handrails, and option 3, they're A-frame freestanding.
Okay.
Any other questions? Diane?
Yes, I looked at them. I like 4 and 5. I liked options 4 and 5. I'm not a great fan of A-frames stuck on the footpath. I think they're a trip hazard. So if we were going to go for the frames, I would go for them as fixtures. But I'm actually a fan of, they don't call them flags, I don't know what they call them.
Teardrop banners.
Pardon?
Teardrop banners?
Okay, I'm actually a fan of those. I know there's a problem with the base and getting them in and out and where you're going to keep them, but maybe if there's not an exhibition on, we can have a flag that advertises the library or something, so that at night they just come into the foyer and in the morning they go out with whatever needs to be on it. But and they're visual to people that are driving along the street, which might make them park and come back to see what they're about. Where these frames are only for people walking, really, they're not really visual to anybody that's driving along the street. So anyway, that's just my input.
Thank you. Paul?
Just some questions. On page 7, could you just explain what the digital sign is? Is that
In that green
in that green space? Is there actually stuff there to do digital signage already, or that you'd have to add that in?
Through the chair, you'd have to add it, so it'd have to cost putting it into the existing sign.
Okay.
We just note that there is power there because that sign does light on the side. Right. So there is actually power there. So it's then working out how to fit it into the existing. So yeah, it's again not costed or anything like that. It's just a concept.
Okay. Right. Okay. Well, here's my 2 boxes. I like that, and I like the snap-on ones that go to the hand railing, not the A-frames.
Yes.
Yep.
Who else would like to comment? Anyone else?
Can I go again?
Yes.
I'm the same way. I think the snap-on and options 1 and 4. My problem with option 5 is that you basically have to have already decided to have come into the centre to see that. And the point of the discussion from my point of view is, as was said, it's about people passing in a car that might go, oh, there's something on there, let's find a park and stop. So it's a combination of walking traffic and vehicular traffic that we need to and they've only got seconds to see something. So 1 and 5 are going to win it for me. 1 and 4, so.
Diane?
Can I comment again?
Sure.
On option 5, that's the one in the building, isn't it?
Yes, one above the door.
I'm sort of thinking that if somebody was coming into the library on their way out, they would see it and they think, oh, I'm here, I might as well turn around and have a look at that. I mean, they would see it as they're coming into the library as well. But, you know, so many people are in such a hurry and they just, I've got to drop the library books off. So they walk in and then thinking about that, on their way out, they might be a little bit more relaxed and they look up and go, oh, I've got time, I can have a look at that.
Except that we've already got stands inside the corridor that point you into it already. So once you walk inside those doors, there are, I can't describe them, but they're actually, and it says, you know, this way to the research centre, this way to the exhibition. So I'm assuming that if you're going into the library or coming out from the library, you're getting that.
Will the meeting grant me leave to make a contribution to this discussion? Thank you. The signage actually arose because Sandra Larry, who some of you may know, and I went to see the mayor a few weeks ago because we were very concerned, because we're both guides in the building, that people were coming in off the street and had no idea that there was an exhibition. And they're people who've lived in Gawler a long time. And they certainly didn't know that there were things happening in the Institute, for example. And I was very conscious of the fact that the gallery is going to have Gawler Community Gallery, is going to have an exhibition here in conjunction with the Gawler Arts Society for the whole of November. And unless there was some outside information, we wouldn't get people off the street. I understand all the other social media promotions and hard copy media as well, which is important. But I do think that getting people off the street, as Diana said, is extremely important. Well, Sandra and I did mention the use of teardrop banners, and I see that they've been discarded, if you like, because of the problem of staff having to bring them inside. I'm not sure I'm not convinced that that's an insurmountable problem. If I had a choice, I would go for the in situ attached A1s in option 1. And I certainly like the idea of the digital sign within the directory sign. I think they were both good ideas, but I would like to see something more eye-catching for people driving past. That's my contribution. So thank you for letting me have it. Any further discussion? Henry.
Yeah, while I'm here, and if I would have a contribution, I also think that option 1 and then the digital display within the existing sign out on the road, that would be the way to go. Appreciating that the digital sign out on the road will take time and take money, whereas the clip-on frames within the existing handrails as per option 1, I assume, David, can be done relatively quickly.
Relatively, we do have to design and cost, obviously, before we go to implement those. But yes, a lot quicker than the digital. Yeah.
Margaret.
Question. The option 1 and 4, I'm agreeable to, but will you be able to interchange your information without having to build the whole structure again?
So through the chair, with option 1, that's the purpose of that. They're a snap frame. So essentially we would be printing an A1 printout and inserting it into the snap frame, and they can be changed whenever we need to. So there's flexibility in that. We could change them daily, weekly, monthly, however needed, which gives great opportunity, and it's a low cost change because it's in-house printing that we can do ourselves as council staff. The digital displays are obviously instantaneous change. We can do that down the track, and that is another consideration around the teardrop banners, etc. They're pre-printed one-offs. So if we want to change them, you've got more cost involved in changing those on a regular basis, if that makes sense as well. So we're trying to balance out the ongoing management and costs, as well as that visual presence, understandably wanting to capture drive past traffic as well.
Paul?
Just looking at it, I assumed that was going to be a printed Corflue sign, but it's not. It's going to be paper stuck onto something, is it? Or?
So through the chair, it's more complex than just paper. It's a framing with a perspex sleeve in front that the paper sits behind. So it is waterproof and weatherproof. So it looks similar to a Corflute, but it's not that we have to print new Corflutes. So that's why the replacement's very cheap, because it's just paper and ink from our internal printers.
Henry?
Well, it's very exciting being here and asking questions and being part of the conversation. In terms of the digital display, noting that it'll take time and it'll be costed and so forth, as part of the Walker Place redevelopment, there is a smart, what's it called, David?
It's a digital wayfinding device.
Digital wayfinding device, within which there's a display panel, I assume, of the same sort of configuration that we're looking here. So although there's been some difficulty in that signage being installed, hopefully that's sooner rather than later. And that screen across the road, being a digital screen, can equally be advertising events and exhibitions and so forth here in the Civic Centre. So that may not be too far away, but it'll just be across the road and a few metres down.
So through the chair, a bit of an update on that one. The suppliers have finished the construction, etc., and are shipping. So we're just waiting for delivery and then installation. So in the coming weeks, hopefully, that signage will be in. So yes, that was the intent as well. Those signs would be able to provide that advertising as well.
Thank you, Dave. Diane?
Another thing that I thought of was that the Gawler app, I know this would be advertised on there as part of the events. Can it be a standalone on the app so that it, if people have got it on and they're just, flicking through, suddenly there's this happening at the Civic Centre?
So through the chair, yes, we can certainly add it as an advertising banner image down the scrolling. 100% we can do that. And also in the latest news and events that is occurring as well in the app, yes.
Anyone else? Okay, Margaret?
Regarding the digital sign, would that be going all 24 hours a day?
So through the chair, we'd have to work out whether we're allowed to do that. As it's next to a road corridor, we just have to check. I'm not sure on the road regulations around overnight use. I know that if it's on a dip-to road, lumens have to be reduced for overnight because of the visibility issues of having bright screens, if that makes sense. But yes, it would generally be rolling 24/7. Yeah.
And people driving through Gawler at night may see it, and that would remind them. That's the only time I'd see it.
I'm going to have another dip. Sorry, folks. I'd see quite clearly in this picture of options 1 and 4, in the background is a hanging which council puts up on a regular basis across the road, and vertical hangings as well. And they are changed in rotation to do with whatever's happening of importance in the town. It's not possible to have one of those at the front of the building instead of teardrop.
So through the chair, not directly out the front of the building. The nearest one is that one that in the image is outside the Golden Fleece complex, essentially. They're prefabricated, installed into those locations. So we're not able to move it to the light pole, which is directly out the front. So that would be the closest location. But in terms of putting a banner in, there's opportunity around that, certainly.
Okay, so well, how does that equate with the cost of changing a teardrop every so often?
So through the chair, I'm trying to work out the exact cost of one of those portrait banners from memory. I know the entire street costs $9,000 to do the printing, etc. So there's 2 cross streets and 12 portraits in that. So rough numbers around $300 or $400 for a portrait. banner. So each time you'd have to print a new one. So every time you wanted to change what was there, it'd be a $400 cost in printing. And then the changeover cost would be absorbed by the banner program cost, because that's just a standard for any changeover.
Okay, so the teardrop is the cost the same as a?
So through the chair, teardrops would be cheaper, then definitely not as durable.
Okay.
So that'd be a cheaper option, but I'd have to get costings on all of that if we wanted to. And if the committee went down that path, we'd get costs and come back.
Okay, well, I'd like to just follow that up with the staffing issue of having to bring them inside. Could someone expand on that for us?
So through the chair, it's down to, at the end of the day, everything that's outside needs to be brought inside. And so that adds time to close up procedures for council staff. Obviously, we've already got close up procedures that are occurring to shut doors and lock up the premises and exit. So then we'd also have to have the staff cost involved in managing the putting out as well in the mornings. And also we've got to factor in that we are, in terms of the Heritage Centre, it's one business unit out of 6 that are within the building. So is it a responsibility of the library to do that? The Heritage Centre, whose responsibility is it? And we don't always have staff from the Heritage Centre working every day of the week, 9 till 5, to handle the in and out process as well. So it'd have to be a shared service across the entire facility. So logistically, there are some complications with that, and cost as well in terms of just in and out costs of managing that process.
Thank you, David. Di?
Another question. These poles that the signs are going, they're not yet there yet, are they?
So through the chair, the handrails that you can see are there, but the image is just over the top of those. So we have to design and construct frames to go within the handrail system. So that's part of the costing process.
Okay, because I was thinking that if we had we could perhaps have a pole that goes up there. So the only thing that has to come in is the flag. You haven't got the base that has to come in every night. If you had not attached to the building, because it's a heritage building, you wouldn't want to do that. But instead of having put this out here like that, if you just had a pole that came up there like that, that you could attach your flags to, well, then the only thing you have to do is take the flags down. You don't have to move the whole base and everything all the time.
Can we ask for that to be looked into? Is that possible?
I've been through this experience when I was with the library, and I also like teardrop, but the investigation, and this is now probably 10 years ago, investigation was that in a high wind, and we do get high winds in the main street, it's a bit of a wind tunnel, you're going to have to clamp them down or make them weighted extremely. It was actually, we ended up with just an A-frame that was chained because just a heavy A-frame ended up getting blown into the street and was a hazard. So I hear what you say, but I'm going to suggest that we progress with 1 and 4 and then assess the impact of those 2 forms of marketing.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
And then if we then feel we need sufficient, perhaps then we look at the next alternative. But I'm feeling reasonably convinced that with the 1 and 4, that will certainly start to activate. And the news that we've also got some ability from Walker Place, I think that's a positive as well. So on that basis, I'm going to move the motion.
Which options? Which options, Helen?
So through the chair, Sarah's taken the liberty to add options 1 and 4 into the motion for your review.
Do you need another point to say that we look into the options of having quotes on some of the others?
Yes, Henry? And then Paul.
If I could, before the vote's put in, and the idea of this other element being the star dropper, so what's it called? The teardrop dropper. I'm very conscious about whatever council does, it sets a precedent. And it's a real battle from a whole of township main street in terms of minimising advertising.
Yeah, it's true.
And whatever we do, businesses will be knocking on the door and saying, well, if you can have it, we want to have it as well.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. Thank you. Paul? Thank you. Any further? Oh, sorry. Did you want to speak? Yeah.
I'll second the motion. I'm happy with options 1 and 4. And if this motion doesn't get up, then another motion can be put up and might include other things. So what I'm saying, we'll test this motion to see whether it gets up or not.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so we've had a mover and a seconder for options 1 and 4. Any further discussion? If not, those in favour, please show. Carried. Thank you, everyone. And thank you for your input, everybody. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Henry. All right, moving on to 6.3, Draft Cultural Heritage Management Plan. You want to speak to this, Jacinta?
Through the chair, the committee is aware that for many years, the 2013 Cultural Heritage Management Plan guided the care of the collection while it was in the custody of the library, and most of the actions of that plan have now been completed. In presenting the draft 2020-2025 plan, the committee had a workshop, and what staff have done have taken the notes from that workshop and formulated them into draft plan for further feedback from the committee. We were interested if there were further thoughts that didn't come out in the workshop that you think would like to be included, if you have additional thoughts on the actions that are there, on the recommendations that are there. The plan is then to come back to the committee with any feedback from tonight's meeting into another draft and with draft actions, so that the committee can then review all of those, and hopefully we'll produce a final draft for the committee to then recommend to council.
Thank you, Jacinta. Discussion? Questions? Di?
I don't have anything to add, but I'd just like to make some comments. Firstly, on the migration of outdated technology. I think that's so important because this is here for years to come, hundreds of years, hopefully. And you know, back in 1940 and 1950, we didn't even know what digital technology was. So who's to say in another 70 years, it's something completely different that we've not thought of. So it's really important to be aware of all that, I think. And then growing the collection, once again, looking forward, what we think is normal today, in another 60 years, people are going to go, oh, wow, did you really do that? You know, so that's really important as well into the future years. And yeah, and I'm really keen about number 19, which is the registration into the History Trust Museum. So that's all I've got to say.
Thank you, Di. Paul?
Yeah, look, I'm happy with all those points. I just want to comment that I'm quite happy with the change of the name, and I reckon it changes the focus of what the Heritage Collection is all about. So I'm very happy with the change of the name and the different direction. So well done.
Helen?
I too am very pleased with the plan, and as somebody who's had a long association with this, very relieved. I did some very careful checking, and we have covered, so we've now got 21 recommendations, exactly the same number as the first plan had. 14 of those are new and 7 carry over 9 of the recommendations that hadn't been done before. So well done, that's excellent. Couple of minor things that I perhaps will discuss later with Jacinta, but the one that perhaps causes me the most, not so much concern, but we seem to have lost the term of cultural tourism. And for those of you that were involved with the Denise Schumann period of this project, we were really tagging, one of the reasons that we were investing in the collection was to increase the tourism, to the cultural tourism to the town. And that has seemed to have been lost. It's probably a minor thing and we can put it back in quite easily, but I think we do need to continue to have that somewhere. I think that's an important thing, and probably allows us then to apply for a different area of funding that comes under that area.
That's a good point. Did you want to respond to that, Jacinta?
Through the chair, yes, I can certainly put a recommendation in there about utilising the collection for the purposes of cultural tourism.
Thank you. Any further discussion? If not, would someone like to move that, please? Helen, seconded, Di. Any further questions, Di? Oh, sorry, just seconding it. Those in favour, please show. Carried. And thank you for all your hard work, by the way. Okay, deaccessioning. Jacinta.
Through the chair, the committee is aware that deaccessioning is part of the professional management of a collection, and especially in the early days of cataloguing a collection. So as staff and volunteers have been working through, we have found a couple of interesting discoveries, which I might share with you a little later, but we've also found some items that we feel are possible options for deaccessioning. So we're presenting them to the committee as per the deaccessioning procedures for your feedback on those items and potentially what we do with them. As I've pointed out, most of these items are of little use to anyone else, and so I can't offer them to other institutions. A number of them we will still keep in the collection. We will simply be keeping them as a digital version rather than a hard copy version, and that's important as we have limited storage, as we do still have some items off site and we'd like to bring them all back to the Civic Centre, so we need to be mindful of our storage.
Thank you. Discussion? Anyone? Paul?
Just looking at some of those items, when you digitalise them, will you be doing every single page, for example, those reports, or just the front cover, for example?
So through the chair, the reports were not up for digitisation. They're a function of another entity, and so the argument would be they don't fit the thematic framework for the Gawler Heritage Collection. They are available in government archives for anyone who wants to have them. So we will keep a record of the fact that we had them in the collection, but no, we wouldn't digitise each page of those.
Thank you. Helen?
Congratulations. This is a great stage to be at. It shows that we're really managing the collection. I'm going to agree with the recommendations, but I'm in a situation to be able to add some suggestions about what they are and why they're there, or who could give us some advice. So, for example, the material on the housing trust and the multicultural, I can't remember exactly what they were. I suggest that we ask Pat Sheehan, a local person, just to run her eyes over it, because I've got there's a chance that it has something to do with the interchurch multicultural group that sponsored refugees here back in the, I think, 70s. So just perhaps some additional information that might help solve the provenance, but I suspect that you've made the right call on most of it anyway. So just a last minute, try that person before we get rid of them.
So through the chair, the process for deaccessioning is after it's been to the committee and then it will go to council, is that we always wait 14 days because sometimes it jogs people's memories and that gives us an opportunity to acquire additional information.
And if nobody else wants it, I'll have the thing on restoring colour to grey hair and get a perfect bust.
I'm sorry, Chair, but the procedures don't allow me to give it to you.
Okay, any further discussion? Sorry. No? Okay, someone like to move the acceptance of this recommendation? Margaret, seconded by Helen. Those in favour, please show. Carried. Thank you, Jacinta, too. The Polaroid camera, I mean, somebody might buy that.
So through the chair, I've checked and it's got a value of about $6.50.
Oh, is that right?
However, there is a photography museum in Western Australia and I will offer it to them.
For 600? Okay. Well, you've got to try, don't you? Okay. Right, running sheet. Items listed for discussion. Oh, the community plan, sorry. Where am I? I've done that. Items, anything, updated motion list, that's what we're on. Anything coming up under that? No? Items listed for discussion at future meetings, reading room usage and purpose. Does anyone want to add to that or?
So through the chair, it's just on the agenda to remind people that it is coming, and I think it's October or November, one of the two.
Okay, so if you've got ideas about it, bring them along when we get that on the agenda. Are there any questions without notice? Emotions without notice? If not, I'll close the meeting and thank everybody very much for their attendance and their input.